I used to work the closing shift at a small movie theater outside Abilene, Texas. It was one of those old theaters that somehow never went out of business. The carpet was faded, the popcorn machine always smelled burnt, and half the posters in the lobby were for movies that had already left theaters months earlier. I was 23, broke, and taking whatever hours I could get. Most nights were boring. By midnight, the last customers would leave. The manager would lock the front doors, and I'd spend another hour wiping counters, sweeping popcorn, and taking trash bags out to the dumpster behind the building. I never liked that part. The dumpster sat at the far end of the parking lot, near a line of trees and an old service road that nobody used anymore. During the day, it was nothing. At night, it felt like the edge of the world. One Friday night, after the last showing ended, I was the only employee left. My manager had gone home early because his kid was sick and the other closer called out. So I locked the front doors, cleaned the lobby, counted the drawer, and took the trash outside. It was cold that night, not freezing, but cold enough that I could see my breath. The parking lot was almost empty. Only my car sat near the entrance, under a flickering light. As I threw the first trash bag into the dumpster, I heard a voice behind me.
Excuse me.
I turned around. Two kids were standing about 20 feet away, a boy and a girl. The boy looked around 12. The girl couldn't have been older than 9. They were both dressed in old-looking clothes. Not old-fashioned exactly, but wrong somehow. Like they had been picked out by someone who had only seen children in photographs. The boy wore a dark hoodie. The girl wore a yellow raincoat. Neither of them looked cold. That was the first thing I noticed. I was wearing a jacket and still shivering. They stood completely still. "Are you okay?" I asked. The boy nodded.
We need to use your phone.
His voice was calm, too calm. "There's a phone inside," I said. "But the theater's closed."
We know.
The boy said. The girl didn't say anything. She just stared at me. I started walking toward the front of the building. "You can wait by the door. I'll call someone for you." The boy shook his head.
We need to come inside.
That was when something in me changed. I don't know how else to explain it. One second, I was worried about two kids standing alone in a parking lot. The next second, every instinct in my body was telling me to get away from them. Not walk away. Run. I tried to stay calm. "Where are your parents?"
They're waiting.
The boy said. "Where?" He pointed toward the service road. There was nothing there, just darkness. I looked back at them. The girl had moved closer. I didn't hear her walk. She was now only a few feet behind the boy.
Please.
She said. Her voice was small and flat.
We can't come in unless you let us.
I remember feeling my stomach drop. I don't know why that sentence scared me so badly, but it did. I took a step back. "I'm going to call the police," I said. The boy tilted his head.
Why?
"Because you're alone out here."
We're not alone.
That was when I finally saw their eyes. The parking lot light flickered overhead. For a second, their faces were lit clearly. Their eyes were completely black. No whites, no color, just solid black, like two holes cut into their faces. I dropped the trash bag. The girl smiled.
Can we come in now?
I ran. I didn't care how stupid it looked. I sprinted across the parking lot, unlocked the front door with shaking hands, and slammed it behind me. The kids didn't chase me. They didn't even move fast. They just walked toward the glass doors. Slowly, I grabbed the phone behind the counter and called 911. While it rang, I watched them through the front doors. The boy stood directly outside. The girl stood beside him. They didn't knock. They didn't wave. They only stared. When the dispatcher answered, I tried to explain what was happening. Two children outside, late at night. Something wrong with their eyes. The dispatcher asked if I was injured. I said no. She asked if the children had threatened me. I said no. Then she asked something that made me go quiet. "Sir, are they inside the building?" I looked toward the doors. The kids were gone. I stayed on the phone until a patrol car arrived. The officer walked around the building, checked the service road, checked the dumpster area, and found nothing. No kids, no footprints, no vehicle, nothing. He clearly thought I was either exhausted or high. I don't blame him. I would have thought the same thing. Before leaving, he told me to go home and get some rest. So I did. I drove home with the doors locked and the radio off. I didn't look in the rearview mirror once. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. I started convincing myself that I'd imagined the eyes. Maybe the light had made them look black. Maybe the kids were just weird. Maybe fear had filled in the rest. Then one night, around 2:30 inches the morning, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 soft knocks. I was asleep on the couch. The sound woke me instantly. I sat up and stared at the door. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the knock came again, 3 times. I didn't move. My apartment was on the 2nd floor. The building had a locked entrance downstairs. Nobody could just walk up to my door unless someone let them in. I slowly stood and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I almost opened the door. Then I heard a voice from the other side.
"We know you're home."
It was the boy. My body went cold. I backed away from the door. Another voice spoke. "The girl."
"You didn't let us in before."
I grabbed my phone and called 911 again. This time, I whispered. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way. The whole time, the kids kept speaking through the door. Not yelling, not angry, just calm, polite, almost bored.
"We're cold. We need help. Your phone is inside. Your lights are on. Please open the door."
Then the boy said something I'll never forget.
"You should have let us in when we asked the first time."
I didn't answer. I didn't make a sound. When the police arrived, the hallway was empty again. But this time, one of the officers noticed something. There were marks on the outside of my door. Not scratches, not dents, fingerprints, dozens of them, all over the wood, as if small hands had been pressing against it for hours. The officer asked if I had any security cameras. I didn't, but my neighbor across the hall did. He had one of those cheap doorbell cameras that recorded whenever it detected motion. The police asked to check it. My neighbor agreed. The footage showed my hallway at 2:31 a.m., empty. Then, for a single frame, 2 figures appeared in front of my door. Not walking into view, not approaching from the stairs, just there, standing. The boy in the dark hoodie, the girl in the yellow raincoat. Their faces were tilted toward the camera. Their eyes were black. Then the video glitched. When it came back, they were gone. The officer stopped joking after that. I moved out 3 days later. For months, I didn't tell anyone the full story. Not my parents, not my friends, nobody. I thought leaving town would end it. But last winter, I received a letter with no return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed the front of the old movie theater. The building had been closed down. The windows were boarded up. The parking lot was empty, except for 2 small figures standing near the front doors. A boy in a dark hoodie, a girl in a yellow raincoat. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "You still haven't invited us in." I burned the photograph. But sometimes, late at night, when my apartment is completely quiet, I still hear 3 soft knocks at the door, and I never look through the peephole anymore. The first time I saw him, he was standing under a streetlight at 2:11 inches the morning. He wasn't doing anything threatening. He wasn't holding a weapon. He wasn't blocking the road. He was just standing there, smiling. And somehow, that was worse. My name is Tyler. This happened about 2 years ago when I was living in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. It was the kind of neighborhood where nothing really happened. Rows of small houses, trimmed lawns, empty sidewalks, motion lights over garages, and the occasional dog barking at absolutely nothing. I worked evenings at a grocery store about 20 minutes from my house. Most nights, I got off around midnight. Usually, I drove home, but that night, my car wouldn't start. The battery was dead, my phone was at 12%, and the only coworker still there lived in the opposite direction. I could have waited for a ride. I should have waited for a ride. But the walk home was only about 40 minutes. The streets were empty. The weather was cold, but not unbearable. So I zipped up my jacket, put one earbud in, and started walking. For the first 20 minutes, nothing happened. Just dark houses, parked cars, and the sound of my shoes on the sidewalk. Then my earbud died. The sudden silence made the street feel bigger. I remember looking at my phone. 2:11 a.m. That was when I saw him. He was standing at the next intersection beneath a streetlight. A man in a dark suit. Not a nice suit. Old, wrinkled, like something he'd been buried in and dug back out wearing. He stood perfectly still with his hands at his sides. His head was tilted slightly upward, as if he were looking at the sky. But he wasn't looking at the sky. He was smiling, not at anyone, not at anything, just smiling into the empty street. I slowed down. There was something immediately wrong about him. Not his face exactly. His face was normal enough. Middle-aged, pale, thin, dark hair combed neatly to one side. But the smile didn't fit. It was too wide, too stiff. Like he had decided what a smile was supposed to look like, but didn't understand why people did it. I crossed the street before I reached him. That was the first mistake, because the moment I stepped off the curb, his head turned, slowly. Not his body, just his head. His eyes followed me across the road. His smile never changed. I pretended not to notice. I kept walking. After about 30 seconds, I looked back. He was still under the streetlight, still smiling. Only now, he had turned his whole body toward me. I walked faster. So did he. Not running. Not even walking normally. He began moving in a strange, almost playful way. Long steps. Then short steps. Then a little skip. His arms swung loosely at his sides, like they weren't fully attached to him. It looked stupid at first, almost funny. Then he crossed the street without looking for cars and started coming toward me. I told myself he was drunk or on something, or just some weird guy trying to scare me. I turned the corner onto Maple Street. That was the fastest way home. The street was darker there, more trees, fewer porch lights. I glanced back again. He was at the corner now, still far behind me, still smiling. Then he stopped. For 1 second, he froze completely. And then he started walking backward. Not away from me, toward me. His body faced the opposite direction, but his head was twisted around, looking straight at me over his shoulder. He was walking backward down the sidewalk, smiling the whole time. I stopped. I couldn't help it. The sight was so wrong that my brain didn't know what to do with it. Then he stopped too. We stood there about half a block apart. Neither of us moved. A dog started barking from somewhere inside a nearby house. The man slowly raised one hand and waved. I ran. I didn't care if that made me look ridiculous. I sprinted down Maple Street, past dark windows and parked cars, my breath tearing in and out of my chest. After about a block, I looked back. He was running too, but not like a normal person. He ran with his arms straight down at his sides, No pumping, no balance. Just his legs moving too fast beneath him, his upper body perfectly still, his smile stretched across his face. I cut through a driveway, jumped a low fence, and landed in someone's backyard. A motion light snapped on. I crouched behind a shed, trying not to breathe too loudly. For a moment, all I heard was my heartbeat. Then footsteps passed on the other side of the fence. Slow now, calm. He was walking again. I heard him humming. A soft, tuneless sound. The kind of thing someone might hum to a child. The footsteps stopped near the fence. I could see his shadow through the gaps in the wooden boards. He stood there for a long time. Then he whispered something. I couldn't understand it at first. He said it again. This time, I heard him. Wrong house. My blood went cold. He wasn't looking for a random person. He knew where I lived. The footsteps moved away. I stayed behind that shed for almost 10 minutes. When I finally looked through the fence, the sidewalk was empty. I checked my phone. 4% battery. I called my brother. No answer. I called my mom. No answer. Then I called 911. The call connected, but before the dispatcher could finish speaking, my phone died. I almost cried. I had no light, no way to call anyone, and I was still about 10 minutes from home. I waited until I couldn't hear anything anymore. Then I climbed the fence and ran. I didn't stop this time. Not at intersections. Not at stop signs. Not when my lungs burned. I ran until I saw my house. My porch light was on. For 1 second, I felt safe. Then I saw him standing in my driveway. He was facing my front door, still smiling. I ducked behind my neighbor's parked truck. The man slowly lifted his arm and pointed at my house. Then he turned his head toward me. He knew I was there. I don't know how, but he knew. I backed away from the truck. The man didn't move. He only smiled wider. Then my front porch light flickered. Once, twice, and went out. The man disappeared into the dark. That was when I heard my mother's voice from inside my house. Tyler? I froze. My mother lived 30 miles away.
Tyler, honey, come inside.
The voice came from behind my front door. It sounded exactly like her. Same tone, same softness, same little break in the word honey. But my mother wasn't there. I backed up until I stepped off the curb. The voice spoke again.
Your hands are freezing. Come inside.
I turned and ran to the neighbor's house. I pounded on their door until the porch light came on. An older man named Mr. Callahan opened it in a bathrobe, holding a baseball bat. I must have looked insane. I told him someone was in my driveway. Someone was trying to get into my house. He pulled me inside and called the police. When officers arrived, they searched my yard, my garage, my house, and the street. They found nobody. No footprints. No broken windows. No sign anyone had tried to force their way in. One officer clearly thought I was drunk. Another asked if I had taken anything. I kept telling them about the man, the smile, the way he ran, the voice. The officer asked what voice. I told him it sounded like my mother. That was when they stopped writing things down. They told me to stay with someone for the night. So I did. I slept at my brother's apartment. At least I tried to. The next morning I went home with him to pick up my work clothes. Everything seemed normal. The porch light worked again. The front door was locked. Nothing was missing. Then my brother called me from the kitchen. There was something on the refrigerator. A sticky note, yellow, placed right in the center of the door. On it, someone had drawn a smile. Just a simple curved line. Under it were 2 words, wrong door. I moved out of that house within a month. For a while, I convinced myself that maybe it had just been a man, a very disturbed man. Maybe he had followed me from work. Maybe he had seen where I lived before. Maybe the voice was my imagination. Stress, fear, exhaustion. That explanation worked until I saw the footage. Mr. Callahan had a security camera above his garage. He didn't check it until a few days later. When he did, he called me immediately. The video showed his driveway at 2:43 a.m. It showed me hiding behind his truck. It showed the man standing across the street in front of my house. But the footage didn't look right. The man was blurry, not because the camera was bad. Everything else was clear. The truck, the mailbox, the trees, me. Only he was distorted, like the camera couldn't decide where his body ended. Then the porch light went out. For 3 seconds, the screen was almost completely black. When the light came back, the man was standing directly in front of the camera. Not walking up to it, not approaching, just suddenly there. His face filled the frame. His smile stretched too wide. His eyes were open too far. And then he whispered into the camera, "Tell Tyler I found the right house." The video ended. Mr. Callahan moved away 6 months later. He never told me why. I tried to move on. I really did. I changed jobs, changed neighborhoods, changed my phone number. For almost a year, nothing happened. Then, last November, I was leaving a gas station after midnight. I had just paid for coffee when the clerk asked me if I wanted to wait inside for a few minutes. I asked why. He pointed through the front window. "There's a guy out there staring at your car." I looked outside. Across the parking lot, under a flickering light, stood a man in a dark suit. His hands hung at his sides. His head was tilted slightly upward, and he was smiling. The clerk locked the door and called the police. I stood behind the counter, unable to move. The man didn't approach the building. He didn't wave. He didn't run. He only stood there beside my car, smiling at the windshield. Then he leaned forward and placed something under the wiper. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. The thing under my wiper was a yellow sticky note. On it was the same hand-drawn smile. And beneath it, in small, neat letters, were 4 words. "Now I know you. I don't walk alone at night anymore. I don't answer knocks after dark. And whenever I pass a street light, I look beneath it before I keep walking. Because sometimes, just for a second, I see a man standing there, perfectly still, waiting, smiling. And each time I see him, he's a little closer to home." I was never supposed to drive through Point Pleasant that night. That's the part I keep thinking about. One wrong turn, one closed road, one stupid decision to trust my GPS. And suddenly, I was on a dark 2-lane highway in West Virginia, surrounded by trees with no cell service and a storm moving in behind me. My name is Daniel. At the time, I was working as a medical courier. It wasn't exciting work, but it paid better than most jobs I could get without a degree. I drove between small hospitals and clinics, delivering sealed packages that I wasn't allowed to open and didn't want to know about. Most nights were quiet. Long roads, gas station coffee, static on the radio. That night, I was driving back from a clinic near the Ohio border when my usual route was blocked by construction. My GPS recalculated and sent me through Point Pleasant. I knew the name. Everyone who likes scary stories knows Point Pleasant. Mothman, red eyes, wings, the bridge. I never believed any of it. I thought it was one of those stories towns kept alive because tourists bought t-shirts. Around 11:40 p.m., rain started hitting the windshield, light at first, then heavier. The road curved through a wooded area, and the last house disappeared behind me. My headlights caught nothing but wet asphalt and trees. Then I saw something standing by the road. At first, I thought it was a person, tall, too tall, standing near a guardrail with its back to me. I slowed down. The figure didn't move. It looked like someone wearing a long black coat. Then my headlights passed over it, and I saw wings, not spread wide, folded against its back. Long, dark wings that hung almost to the ground. I didn't stop. I told myself it was a tarp, a road sign, a tree branch, anything. Then I looked in the rearview mirror. 2 red lights stared back at me from the road. Not reflectors, not taillights, eyes. They were too high off the ground, and they were moving. I pressed the gas. The red eyes stayed behind me. At first, they were distant, then closer. The road dipped and curved. My tires hissed over the wet pavement. The radio cut to static. Through the static, I heard a sound that made every hair on my arms stand up. A low humming, not from the engine, not from the radio, from outside. It vibrated through the car. Then something hit the roof, hard. The entire car shook. I shouted and swerved. For 1 second, a black shape covered the windshield. Wings, claws, rainwater. Then it was gone. I slammed the brakes and nearly spun out. The road ahead was empty. The roof above me creaked. Something was on the car. I sat completely still, gripping the wheel. The humming stopped. Then I heard tapping. 3 taps on the roof. Slow, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. I don't know why, but I looked up. The ceiling fabric pushed inward slightly, like something heavy was pressing down from above. I hit the gas. The car lurched forward. Whatever was on top dragged across the roof, then lifted away with a sound like a sheet snapping in the wind. I drove faster than I should have. Rain blurred the road. My GPS flickered. Then the screen changed. The map disappeared. White text appeared on the display. Turn around. I thought the system had glitched. Then it appeared again. Turn around. The road ahead curved toward an old bridge. I didn't know which bridge. I didn't care. I was too scared to stop. Then the red eyes appeared in the road ahead of me. Not behind me anymore. Ahead, floating above the pavement. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded sideways and stopped just before the curve. The red eyes vanished. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Only rain. Only my breathing. Then headlights appeared behind me. A pickup truck came speeding around the bend. It passed me on the left, the driver honking, as if I were the idiot for stopping in the middle of the road. The truck continued around the curve. Then its brake lights flashed. There was a crash. Metal twisting. Glass breaking. Then silence. I sat frozen. A few seconds later, my phone signal came back. 1 bar, then 2. I called 911. Emergency crews arrived 20 minutes later. The pickup had gone through the guardrail where the road curved near the bridge. The driver survived, but barely. One of the deputies asked why I had stopped. I didn't tell him the truth. I said I saw something in the road. An animal, maybe. He nodded like he'd heard that before. Before I left, an older man approached me near the ambulance. He wore a rain jacket and a baseball cap. I thought he was a firefighter at first, but he didn't have any markings on his clothes. He looked at my car roof. There were 3 long dents across it, like something with a huge hand had grabbed the metal. The old man touched one of the dents and said, "You saw him." I didn't answer. He looked toward the dark trees. "People think he causes things," he said. "Maybe he does. Maybe he just shows up when something bad is already coming." Then he walked away before I could ask anything. I quit my courier job 2 weeks later. I couldn't drive at night anymore. For months, I refused to talk about Point Pleasant. But strange things kept happening. Every time it rained, my car alarm would go off at 3:17 a.m. Always 3:17. No one near it. No motion detected. Just the alarm screaming in the dark. Eventually, I sold the car. The dealership called me 3 days later. They said they found something strange in the trunk. A black feather, almost 2 feet long. I told them to throw it away. Last month, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a flash drive. On it was one video file. The footage came from a dash cam, my dash cam, the one that had supposedly stopped recording that night. The video showed the road in front of me. Rain, trees, headlights. Then the moment I stopped before the curve, at first, I thought the footage showed nothing new. Then I noticed the reflection in the windshield. Something was sitting in the back seat. A dark shape, folded wings, 2 red eyes, watching me from behind. I paused the video, zoomed in. The face was almost human. Almost. Then the audio crackled. Through the static, a voice whispered, "You turned around too late." I deleted the file. Then I destroyed the flash drive. But 2 nights ago, during a thunderstorm, I woke up to tapping on my bedroom window. 3 taps. Slow. Deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. My bedroom is on the 2nd floor, and when I pulled the curtains closed, I saw 2 red eyes reflected in the glass behind me. Thank you for listening. Check your locks. Turn off the lights. And sleep well, if you can.